All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Looks like we got a nice crowd today. I am broadcasting out of New Orleans, Louisiana. I know Elizabeth and Sean are in the Denver area, and Laura down in Savannah, Georgia, right?
That's right.
Awesome. Where's everybody else out of? If you can, put a chat in the box while we're waiting for everybody else to join us. Let us know where you're coming in from. For those who are just now joining, we are going to get started in just a few moments. We're going to let more people join. So if you need to top off your coffee, maybe
we got Hawaii in the house.
We got Hawaii. All right. Love that.
Aloha.
Warm aloha.
Maryland, love it.
We are covering it. Oh my gosh, that might be what, like 2,500, 3,000 miles? It's end to end right there.
How do you know that?
That is a wild guess. Ooh, way off. 4,785 miles. Way off. It's quite the reach there. We have some more people joining still. We're going to get started in just 1 minute. If you want to get some popcorn ready for the show, maybe top off the coffee, make sure we don't fall asleep at the lunch hour, feel free to do so. We'll get started in just a moment. Thanks, everybody. And, while you're waiting, feel free to go to LinkedIn. You can follow AdCellerant on our social media. We're always sharing some fun tips and tricks, things that are going on with us, and how you can continue to, level yourself up, continue to enhance your own businesses, or maybe find some ideas that help you out.
We had some Missouri, Mississippi. We've got our M states coming in, Maryland, Missouri, Mississippi.
I see someone from Connecticut. Let's see here. All over the place. Minnesota. All right.
Canada's in the house.
All right. Well, we are excited about this one today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And first off, thanks so much to our panelists, for also joining us. Me and Elizabeth are excited about this one. This is something that we're very, very passionate about. It's also something that is constantly changing. And as much as I'd like to say I'm an expert in digital transformation, I'm not the best. This is something that happens on the other side of the fence from AdCellerant. So we like to lean into subject matter experts from that side of the fence as well. So as we get started here, we're going to introduce a couple of people and help you guys understand who we're bringing to the table. Who do we support? How are we doing that? And, why these folks are such important assets to this conversation. So first off, my name is Ben Bouslog. I am our Vice President of Business Development. I've been with AdCellerant 8 years. I love working with different media companies. I've supported, several hundred in their digital transformation, and I'm excited to be here. Elizabeth, I'll hand it off to you.
I just need to unmute. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. Thank you for spending time with us today. Elizabeth Bernberg here. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development. And really, this conversation is not about us today at all. It's this amazing panel that we have of your peers, industry leaders from print and broadcast, who are going to be sharing their tips and tricks. But really, it's their feedback and insights tied to their own experiences as to how they've really leaned into these capabilities and the dawn of the new digital age to benefit, of course, their core clients, their business, and continue to elevate their presence in the community. So really excited about today's conversation. Should we
So
start with who we are?
yeah, a little bit, just real quick. AdCellerant is a technology and digital advertising services company. What we do is we're focused on bringing different technologies and people and expertise and subject matter experts to different partners of ours so that they can work on their own digital transformations. We're based out of Denver, Colorado. We do have our own proprietary software that kind of oversees that digital sales life cycle from proposal to execution reporting and tying all those things together. I have over 190 people on the team and over 500 local media partners, ad agencies, local marketers that we're working with around the world. What we do is we're really just a full stack digital agency solution within a single point of contact. You get sales enablement, training, incredible execution, very transparent and open reporting, and really a full stack of all the products that you need to grow your digital business.
All right.
And I want to hand this one off to you, Elizabeth. You pulled this one. I think it is perfect to tee off our conversation and then introduce our panelists.
Absolutely. I'm a big sucker for quotes, and I thought this was so incredibly perfect and timely given today's conversation. Don't be fooled by some of the digital transformation buzz out there. Digital transformation is a business discipline. And y'all, that just really resonates, right? And it should. Business discipline or a company philosophy, not a project, right? This is something that should ideally be embedded in your company's DNA. So let's get into it. Questions to think about too. And my goodness, we probably should have moved up the introduction to these awesome people earlier on, but my goodness, questions to think about too, as our panelists are really talking about their own experiences with this, transformation, within within the industry, within their companies, what that looked like, ways that really, things that really worked well, things that could have been better. These are some just important questions for y'all to keep top of mind and think about your own company, right? Where are you today? Where do you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now? What kind of disruption have you seen when it comes to digital and even your core revenue? Are you starting a new arm of your business, or are you trying to get to that, phase 2? This is going to be really important for you to just keep top of mind as the conversation continues. So you know who we are. Next, let's get into these lovely people. We have Laura Iwanski. Love it. Who is the National Digital Sales Director for Hagadone Media. Thank you. Thank you, Laura, for joining us. And we have Sean Rhoads, who is the President and GM of MaxMedia here in Denver. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right. So let's start with the do's. And we were able to, for those of you joining us, we were able to connect with Laura and Sean, a few times and kind of talk through, real conversationally about what does this mean, digital transformation? Where do you start, right? That's a lot to unpack. So these tips right here, we're going to have both panelists really share their initial feedback and, how they really grabbed the bull by the horns when it came to creating the successes that they currently have in their businesses. But let's start with tip number 1, company culture and team dynamic. So I'm going to start with Sean here, especially when it comes to anything new, right? And not a project, right? A discipline, looking at remembering that quote earlier on. Tell us a little bit about just those initial kind of thoughts and putting together the pieces to really create the sizzle within your team that we are going to be really leaning into these digital capabilities and digital transformation for MaxMedia.
Absolutely. I mean, it all starts with that overall buy-in and creating that culture that's going to propel, as you said, it's not a project. This is a new fixture of our business. And, digital integration has been a buzzword for many years. And, speaking from our own example, we've went through multiple phases in that, but, ultimately the talk of innovation is really a fancy word for change, and change is scary. You have that team that consists of, your senior level, older salespeople that have done it this way forever, and this is how I always want to do it. And then you have, the younger portion of that team that their adaptability to new ideas and that change is a little quicker. So, for us in the past, in building that culture, the best way to present change is to have success with that change. And ultimately, the whole reason we're in business is to make money. And, for us, the integration with digital has always been twofold. On one hand, it's to provide better services to our clients to strengthen that relationship. And then it's to maximize our revenue capabilities here as a company. So, for us, it's really been rallying around, power is knowledge. So the more they know, the better they function, the more confident they feel to present to clients, and the more success they have with it. And as that success builds, we've seen that ball get rolling to where, it almost gets rolling too much sometimes where you're like, hey, don't forget about the old 100-year-old radio stuff that we need to still. So, but that's it. It's balance and it's true integration. It's being able to provide a larger list of services to clients to strengthen results for the clients and really position yourself in the marketplace to be a better competitor. So, for us, that's it. It's rallying around knowledge and, building, that true team around this new fixture of our business. So
It sounds like you guys have done a great job of, bringing it from the top down, right? And encouraging not just your leadership to have that open mindset, but really driving that open mindset ideology into your reps, into the rest of the team too. Help them understand what the opportunity is if they take advantage of it and what the opportunity cost might be if they don't take advantage of it.
absolutely. And you just reminded me of maybe the most important part of that is, culture does start at the top. And I can speak from experience, in the early years of our adoption of digital services, as a young seller at the time, I didn't believe because I knew the leaders didn't believe. It was that mentality of like, we're doing this because we have to do it. Here's this stuff that we can do, but rob Peter, pay Paul. And that was kind of the way things were for quite some time. And it really, shifted for my own organization here a few years ago where, we've had many, head-butting conversations of, the higher ups, CFOs, CEOs of the company that, didn't necessarily like the unknown element and the profit margins and kind of all that stuff. So there's been a series of dialogue with them to get them on board and really see the future of this business, because they themselves have, been in kind of that earlier portion that I was speaking with, the staunch, this is how we've done it and this is how we'll always do it. But lucky for us, we've had great examples of Blockbuster and Kodak and Motorola that have proved that, if we don't innovate, we die. So
Yeah, you don't want to be a BlackBerry.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, absolutely. The culture definitely needs to stem from the top. It needs to be a complete wholesome buy-in from every level of the organization. So
Yeah.
I love that. And Laura, you've been a part of a couple of different large companies and their transformations when it comes to digital. Tell us a little bit about your perspective, and would love to hear from your point on coming from the top down as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just to echo, Sean's points, I almost think it's not a nice to have, it's a need to have if there isn't top down commitment and evangelism and buy-in. There will be constant roadblock after roadblock, and it will feel like a project, and everyone will sense that it's a project. And so I think that it's almost a non-negotiable. And I do think also that there's this element of, introspective looking in the mirror. I've seen a lot of organizations say that they want to transform, talk about transforming, but if you look in the mirror and you say, hey, are we actually taking the steps to transform? The answer is no. And so, this is the type of thing that you can't just speak into existence. You have to really look at yourselves as a business and see what's currently prohibiting kind of that forward momentum. And then with that top-down commitment, work towards executing, getting rid of those barriers, bringing the solutions to the table to help you inch towards, that transformative moment in time.
That's really first off impressive, because all too often we see that there's a disconnect between those two different teams, the leadership versus even mid-level into lower level. Making sure you have that consistency across the board, it'll make it that much easier, right? I mean, it's not going to be easy, period, but it will make it a little bit easier for everybody.
I think also just one thing to kind of cap off the open mindset and culture point is the commitment and due diligence to assessing the organization from every point of view, because there are different roles across an organization with different MOs, different functions, different end goals. And if you aren't, planning your path to digital transformation with all of the different perspectives in mind, that typically is when you lose buy-in, because you haven't really addressed what's in it for whether it's the very top, the very bottom, admin, functional roles. It's not just the seller and it's not just the sales leader. And I think that that's really important, to kind of that cultural shift, is that everyone is a part of that.
I love, well, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was just saying cultural shift, and it's all encompassing. It's everybody, right? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
No, I mean, that was it. The fact that it's, you guys are, and I think, Laura, you mentioned this earlier. What are we trying to be? That involves everyone, right? That involves every key stakeholder, every team member across every department, and then everyone beating that same drum, right? In that evolution. So I think you really hit on something too. In terms of that first step, we've all got to be on board, or this ship, is not going to float.
For sure.
All right. Number 2, understanding what's happening in your marketplace. And there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, understanding in your marketplace, there's competitors, whether you're in print or broadcast or agency, there could be share or budget erosion, industries that are ebbing and flowing in terms of their spend. What really is, the value prop, right? That, your organizations are bringing to the table in terms of understanding the marketplace and how to separate yourselves from the pack. Sean, we'll start with you too. What is really MaxMedia? What's been your approach to, making sure that you're not just tied to this commodity in terms of digital? You've got your amazing core, but you also have these other key elements. How are you able to really, be better service partners to your advertisers?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head with the evolution of things, and mentioned the word commodity. And that's really, I guess if I had a personal aha moment in digital sales, that, in the beginning, being a broadcaster and an idea guy and a creative, and working on, campaigns to build, custom, promotional inclusions. And that's how my brain has always worked, to wrap around putting a commercial out there based off of holidays, or, selling a specific type of sofa or whatever it might be. And so originally, with the, adoption of digital, and how we were going about positioning ourselves in the marketplace, is I think we were trying to find that secret sauce, right? That that only we could do. And, in the beginning, we would run out and say, yeah, we have, this first person data, or we have, the ability to do OTT, and we, luckily for you all in your education, for myself and my team, really, started focusing in the same way of building off of client needs rather than, throwing up this list of capabilities to clients, is really start with the needs of that client. And for us, it's always been a micro or macro solution process for them, to where, great, you can reach, this, we can cast a wide net with our radio stations. You can talk to everyone simultaneously, but let's focus on this specific product that, you have a 42-year-old male that is ideal for this product. That's where we can really utilize, this set of tactics to help drive that sales of that individual product. Or then on the macro side, where, oh, you have multiple markets across the United States that we can put plans together for. So those are really kind of the two areas that we're using those things. But as far as, creating our why, for us, it's really goes back to our model as a company here in Denver has always been to completely and utterly focus on results and delivering on those client needs. So it's, we're less of that transactional partner. We're really digging into the fabric with our clients to make meaningful change. And a lot of times, and I've told you all this, is we've had multiple partners in the digital, white label space, where some did some things well, others did other things well. But it was really with AdCellerant that we were able to find a wholesome grouping of it all. But the best part of it was the service portion, to where that had been the overall lacking element that is key to our why. Our why is developed around complete devotion to client needs. And if we don't have a dynamic partner that can, be quick and responsive, it destroys our why. So that's really been the propelling element for us in our partnership with you all, has just been that communication that we're able to have in real time and provide solutions in real time for clients. So I think in that effort, I think that's really how we've positioned ourselves in the market, is to not be that commodity, because, you can buy the internet in multiple places. But it's really that service, to where we can look at it differently, have multiple eyeballs and ears on the problem, and have multiple solutions to offer. So that's been really kind of how we've positioned ourselves here. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to understand exactly, what everybody else is doing in order to, one, differentiate yourself. And if you don't do that, then, you won't be able to differentiate yourself. And when you create that why, when you find that why, move forward with it, right? And, it leads to me to the next tip that is kind of perfect here. One of the whys, do we do this, is thinking about what the opportunity is for us, or what the opportunity cost is for us. And so on this next tip, we look at, understanding the revenue potential. A lot of times we like to make things emotional for people to get them to move a little bit faster on things, right? And what really makes me emotional is the old dollar bill there, especially if there's a bunch of them. So understanding what that revenue potential is. Laura, when you guys look at revenue potential, what the opportunity is there, what the opportunity cost is there, how did this aid in building a plan for this digital transformation for you guys?
Yeah, so it's funny because this, I think, dovetails perfectly from tip number 2 that we were just talking about, which is, when you're deciding what you're going to become inside of your marketplace. And I think a lot of the pain that traditional media has gone through kind of over the last 12, 15 years has been a little bit of an identity crisis, trying to figure out, is digital just an appendage to, you know, what we were, or is it starting to become, you know, an evolved part of who we are? And a lot of that, when I think about revenue potential, is the revenue potential just extra, a little bit on top of, or is it a infusion into our overall revenue stream? And if you look at it any other way but that, then you will struggle with digital transformation, because there is a reality associated with margins with this product. It's different. This portfolio is very different than owning and having proprietary audience that you've worked really hard to gain through, say, print or broadcast or radio or traditional avenue. And so I think once you commit to digital transformation and you know that that is going to be part of your why, the revenue potential that you look at really has to be all encompassing. So yeah, I mean, that has to be a big part of the equation, and everybody in the organization has to kind of assess and understand, so that when you do start talking about things like margin, you don't take steps backwards.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Serendipitous that you're kind of talking about that too, because the P&L for digital is different than, you know, P&L for own and operated products, right? I literally just gave a webinar last week with Gordon Burrell, Burrell Associates, and it was talking about the profitability in digital sales. And we'll be talking about it again at the Burrell conference next weekend in Miami. So, you know, understanding that it's not just a culture shift, it's not just, you know, understanding opportunity cost, it's about understanding what this change looks like, so that you can start, you know, shifting the way that you're viewing what top line looks like, what bottom line looks like, what the P looks like, what the L looks like, all these things, right? So we really, really, really need to break that down. I appreciate
Totally.
the insights there. You know, Sean, how about you guys? How did you guys justify, you know, the squeeze?
Yeah, so that's been that was a big piece of the discussion, going back to, once again, the top down, creating the culture element. And, it's still a hot button, and, we've compromised on a lot of areas, but, once again goes back to kind of that dual element. On one hand, you want to be able to, the whole, one of the big portions and pieces of us doing this is strengthening those relationships. So we want to be able to provide services to not only show our expertise and help our business partners. And so that's one part of it. So, there's sometimes the products that have a lower margin, but they're necessary for us to do in order to fully service our client. And then on the other half, it's, searching for, plans and that do have better margins for us are optimal. But, it just recalls a conversation I had with my CFO, where in the beginning, this was a few years ago, he's like, man, I just don't like these margins, Sean. He was like, we're only getting, about, 30% of, 30 cents out of every dollar here. And in that specific time, there was one individual client that we had, that all of the business was coming from Dallas, Texas. This guy had a big car wash enterprise, and it was around $30,000 a month in a digital spend that was in a market 1,500 miles from Denver. So I had to say, I understand your point, but we would be getting $0 from Dallas had it not been for our digital capabilities. And then I went further to say, when you really boil it down, and this is stuff the CFOs hate to hear, and hopefully, David, you're not on this call. If you are, I love you. But but when you really think about all the expense that goes into creating our radio broadcasts, from on-air talent to music licenses and engineering costs and all these things, it really kind of is the same thing if you look at it differently. But lo and behold, it is about compromise, and it has to be, juice worth the squeeze. So for us, it's definitely choosing battles that we can win with and profit with. So we naturally, as a sales organization, gravitate towards the things that are going to be most worth our time. And a lot of times the things that pay the best also work the best. So that's really our experience. So
You know what? You guys are really good at just like teeing us up for the next one, right? This is perfect. The conversation we're having here is because you guys have relationships, whether they're in your market where you do all of your core business, or another market because you have a college buddy that happens to know that you can offer digital advertising or something like that, across the world, or in Dallas, Texas, when you're in Denver. It's important to think about those things. So Laura, I want to hand it off to you on this one because I know you guys did a really good job of kind of breaking everything down of what your full setup was, what your all the different tools and technologies and vendors and partners and all these different things look like, so that you can make a more informed decision on what can we do, what can we not do, is there a way we can do it with less moving parts so that you can make it easier on your team, but then not just easier on your team, easier on your customers, right? Tell us a little bit about, what being the one means. What is this tip about?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I have worked for a number of traditional media companies, widely varied in size and scope and capability and geographic footprint. And you really do have to go through this process of identifying who you're going to be to the customer, who you're going to be to the sales organization. And it can be sometimes easy to piecemeal different capabilities from all over the place. And, if you have the internal infrastructure to manage and puppeteer that, then wonderful. That's fantastic. I have not seen many organizations this day and age that have really robust, heavy internal kind of middlemen to be able to do that. And so there comes a point where even if there are things that you want to do that are super sophisticated or next level for the sake of, digital capabilities or sophistication, you do have to figure out how you can be as much as you can be with as much efficiency as possible. And that means that sometimes you have to choose to be the one, or find a partner that can help you to fill as many gaps as you have as an organization as possible. Because again, your internal infrastructure requires it. And then Ben, to your point, it's easier on the client. It makes their experience so much more just simple. And so on behalf of literally everyone, you kind of owe it to yourself to make sure that happens. That doesn't mean that there are partners who can do everything for every part of the operation, but you absolutely do need to find efficiency there so that it feels like as well-oiled of a machine as possible.
Absolutely. You're only as as efficient as you can possibly be when you make sure all these pieces fit together. I think you made a good point. If you could do it yourself and you could pull all these things together, and maybe you have your own proprietary technology or processes that fit almost perfectly, keep doing it. Don't fix something that's not broken. But I think it's also worth analyzing. Hey, what's the opportunity if we are able to shave minutes or seconds off of this maniacal task that we do multiple times a day, every single day, right? At the end of the year, that adds up into time back spent with your families, or time spent on revenue driving activities, things like that. Sean, I want to bring it over to you now for this last one. This was important to you guys, as you guys, started your cultural shift and understanding your revenue potentials and knowing what's in the marketplace, and that your advertisers were asking for these things. How did you come to the conclusion to, be that one and, find a partner that was able to really help you out there?
Absolutely. So, and going back to what Laura just said, I mean, it's right on point. And for us, it was the it was exhausting when we had multiple partners kind of doing everything. The best way I can relate it, and I'm not going to go into personal medical details about myself here, but I've had, recently just going through some minor medical stuff where I was like seeing 3 different doctors, and it was just like re-explaining everything to each doctor, and then having different things worked on simultaneously to where I myself was confused and not sure, if one hand was working with the other. So, for us, we reached that point of exhaustion where it was confusing for us, confusing for our clients. The lines were getting crossed. So I'm going back to that kind of that one, be the one. That's kind of where driving that consistency between all departments really made a huge difference to where, the communication's on point, everything is working with the other, to once again go back to that success element, which spurs ultimate growth. So
I love it. Revenue growth, being the one. I'm just getting pumped right now. This is awesome. Obviously with all these different things that you guys can do, it's important to, really have a full focus on what the big picture looks like so that you can, really dial in on each of the little pieces as well. And so, Sean, I'm going to go right back to you now because you're mentioning here, like, the different moving parts between teams and communication and making sure that, one system's doing one thing and the other system that it's connecting to or talking with is doing the same thing as well. How are you doing these types of things that, or excuse me, let me back it up. Tell me a little bit about how you guys establish those lines of accountability between, your partnerships and your organization so that you guys can continue to work as seamlessly as possible.
absolutely. And I checked on the participants and I saw that Cassie is on this call, so she's going to love this one. So, so it's a great question, and that's been probably one of the biggest growth curves for us. And I know Cassie's going to shake her head multiple times as I talk here. So, originally our clients know us as radio people. They know us as those experts in broadcast and, advertising. When it comes to audio, we go out there and we're very active with local direct, probably the most active in Denver as far as walking and knocking and reaching out to local, small, medium, and large businesses. And with that, we in the beginning, we struggle with the idea of all of a sudden, waking up one morning and going to our advertisers and saying, hey, guess what? I'm a digital expert now. I know a lot about the internet, and it's, we in our minds felt that BS meter going off with clients. So we loved the idea in the beginning with AdCellerant, producing us the wonderful and only Cassie, who quickly became a crutch for me personally. I mean, she's so intelligent, great client-facing demeanor. So, we established her as, hi, client, meet Cassie. Cassie knows everything about the internet. I'm just your dumb old, radio sales guy. So we kind of started that way. Well, we created a bit of a monster, and Cassie's not the monster. The monster was the relationship between client and Cassie, to where, it's a white label operation, but we created this dynamic to where the relationship was dependent upon Cassie. In fact, so much so that we had to literally create business cards for her from our office. Cassie's actually went to meet with some clients. So anyways, it was, a few weeks after that, I was like, Jeff, who's my partner over here, was like, we got to take ownership here. We have to present ourselves as the experts. We can say that, we just finished a weekend retreat with Google or whatever we need to say to establish ourselves as those experts. But it goes back again to that knowledge. And, you know, and looking back, we know what we're talking about. We are the experts. We just need to take ownership of being those experts. And so since, you know, most of the relationships we've started have been, you know, I'm keeping the wizard behind the curtain a little more to help ease those things. But yeah, I would encourage anyone out there, either if they're just getting started, to definitely utilize the knowledge and the training and the expertise of your account rep, but don't use it as a crutch either, and don't you know, don't create any sticky situations out there, because that was a big learning curve for us. So
I hear you. And you know, you guys were, you know, starting pretty fresh, right? You were trying to kind of rebuild the trust within the team, making sure you're rebuilding trust within your customers, and presenting yourselves as a digital resource there. And I'll take it to Laura. And I know we're at about 40 minutes past the hour. We'll see if we can keep the last part of this nice and succinct for everybody, so we can get through all this. But Laura, you know, the organization that you guys are with, you know, you've got a wide variety of individuals where, you know, you have people that are digital experts. They're, you know, used to talking to clients. They are very dangerous. And then you have people who may need a little bit of help, and they might need a little crutch like a Cassie or something like that. Tell me a little bit about how you guys are taking ownership and how you have to create that flexibility across the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, echoing, it kind of made me laugh, Sean's comments, just because, well, I've been there before where, you know, the partner is the answer. And there are times where the organization is in a state where we really need the partner to be the answer because we're not there yet. But also that goes back to, you know, I said this earlier, but is this an appendage to our business, or is this who we're trying to become? And one of the reasons that, again, you know, the partnership with AdCellerant is so fluid and so flexible is that it can really meet an organization at both ends of the spectrum, which the organization that I'm with is absolutely an example of that. We do have some individuals within the organization with a really high acumen that can carry the ball. They really just need the right tools, the right tech, the right fulfillment. And then we have another part of the organization that really needs hand holding, and that would absolutely be the ones potentially taking advantage of the, you know, partner client facing role or capability that exists. And so I think it's just a matter of identifying that if you are committed to digitally transforming, I will use this saying in our organization a lot, partner enabled, people powered, which is, you know, yes, we have partners that help us to be this full suite marketing organization, but it is the partner plus the people inside of the organization that allow for us to be everything that it is that we're saying we are. So that means that there has to be accountability within the organization as well.
I appreciate that. That's, you know, the flexibility needs to be there, right? And I think it also means you need to create open lines of communication between your partners and the team, and also not silo it either. Make sure that, you know, multiple people hear what's coming out of the mouths, so it's not just going into one individual and staying there. All these things that are good ideas to have. Obviously, it's important to not do certain things. Elizabeth, tee us up for the don'ts. What are we not supposed to be doing? What do we not suggest?
Right.
Is our digital transformations?
And you know, a lot of these too, these are literally like the FYIs, don't forgets. So they kind of go back to be sure you do this. So you can look at it two ways. But you know, I'm a former DSM myself in the broadcast space as well as in the print space. And you know, everything that Sean and Laura have been talking about, you know, rings so true. Really, no matter what kind of media you're in, or shoot, if you have an agency, this is a part of it. But then there are also these obstacles, right? And the things that we need to be mindful of when we start really the execution process, right? And putting you know, putting things in motion. First and foremost, we're not creating monsters here. I'm going to echo what Sean said. No monster creation. Don't Frankenstein. And when we talk about don't Frankenstein, it's really that that piecemeal part that we touched on earlier. And You don't want to be piecemealing partnerships. You don't want to be piecemealing solutions. You want to have something that's ideally holistic for your client, to really lean into, all of these capabilities and see the benefits of these solutions working together. So when you have a lot of Frankenstein, a little part over here that's going to maybe do this, and a little arm over here that's maybe going to do this, and here's a leg that we're going to attach, that Frankenstein can actually really work against you, and create more obstacles, more areas that can be sticky situations, because a lot of the data and the information and just the flow of those campaigns are not as seamless as they could be if it was all under ideally one umbrella. So I took on tip number one. Hope you all don't mind. I feel like that was just, I want you guys talking about the real meat and potato stuff here. Consistency, uniformity matters. No Frankenstein, no monsters. Tip number two. And this really, I think we've all been saying solutions. Not one of us today has named out a product. Not one of us. And I think that that's incredibly important, especially with new arms of any business, new disciplines that we're taking under, the helm of the corporation, to be talking about solutions. Laura, kick us off, especially when it comes to, I'm a former print gal myself. I've lived in a lot of packages. I think a lot of things that more legacy sellers want to just talk about or maybe use as their scapegoat is, I don't know about the products. I don't know about the products. I can't be selling it. How are you talking to your team about, the differences between solution selling and product selling, and why Hagadone has kind of taken on the approach of, we've got to be there for our clients as solution sellers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the organic consultative sales approach, if the whole organization isn't bought in drinking that Kool-Aid, then the digital transformation will be tough, because the solutions that exist inside of that portfolio are really meant to solve client needs, client barriers, client goals. And that means that you can't live in kind of that, here's my coat and here are the watches inside of the coat, take them or leave them. You really do have to go in, and you can use the traditional core assets that you have as an entry point, as a real rooted piece of the overall mix. But the entire point of this is to really be able to have a true multifaceted portfolio that goes beyond just that core asset. And so just constantly reminding yourself that if you're in the midst of digital transformation, that you really shouldn't be, product blitzing, or, that organic consultative approach is super important.
Exactly. Because it also, I mentioned the word commodity, and, Sean talked about it earlier, and it goes back to the, creating your why, and the why should really go back to the core of what your organization is, where you hang your hat, the pillars of what makes your business, your print publishing company, your broadcast company different from all of the others out there, right? And it does continue on through sales and how we conduct ourselves with those end advertisers. It's that holistic approach. It's solutions that all go back to who we are as a company, right? We're not here for spots and dots. We're not here for ROP ads. We're here to help you, Mr. Mrs. Local business owner, to be better at your business and to connect with your customers. That's who we are. So Laura, you just hit the nail on the head there. And we'll shimmy over to Mr. Sean for tip number 3, because this, I think, happens all the time. You really, no matter where you are in your digital transformation, if you're, just starting, you're, well in the midst of it, right? You're in it, or, maybe it's time to elevate it, right? It's time to get, digital transformation 2.0. Don't overwhelm the team. It can be a lot, right? There are a lot of solutions and products and jargon and technology terms and stuff that can really cause confusion and, and anxiety. Sean, how have you kind of been able to keep the fun around this, keep the sizzle around this, without overwhelming the team when it comes to, what you guys are doing in the digital space.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a little bit of this goes back to the previous, but it's, once again, I think focusing on the audience, training your team, that's where it all starts. That's where the conversation with that client needs to begin, is, focusing truly on that target demographic, that target customer, and then the objective or the KPI. Once you have those two elements, the rest is easy. And then, going into, building the fun and all of that into it. Obviously as salespeople, we're competitive by nature. So, we've done everything from have our own, contest for teams to, build different things with different objectives and different new products to unfold and train to each other. That's been kind of our method over here, is really each of us kind of captaining different things that we provide customers with, and teaching that to the rest of the team. So that's been a way, once again, once one person can feel like the expert, it helps with that overall coercion with the entire team. But I think as far as, the true fun of it is really providing solutions. So that's where I've seen the magic happen, is we've taken arrows in the forehead, so many times, to where we've done it the wrong way enough to know what we don't like, and success feels so good. So when you can, work with a client and actually get results for them with this stuff, that's where the magic happens. That's where the aha moment clicks in, and we're off to the races. Because once our sellers feel confident that they can get success with this, then it becomes dangerous. And it's really fun to see people take off once they understand. I don't want to say how easy it is, but how easy it is. I mean, it's really, for a lot of us in our different organizations, whether it be print or audio or television, for forever we've heard digital, and it's just, I think maybe we grew up watching too many robot movies, and we just think, we hear the word digital and we think complicated. So we've kind of hit the ground running with the idea that this is going to be complicated. But when you really think about it, I mean, it boils down to just audience. It's, being able to specifically narrow down an audience and reach a specific audience. And that's really the most captivating thing that we can express to our team, is being able to truly hit an audience on the head with an array of products. So
I love that. Before we get into the fourth tip, I know we're coming down to the end here in a little bit. If anybody has any questions you want to ask, feel free to pepper them in here, and we'll see if we can answer anything.
100%.
In the Q&A feature.
All right. Number 4, don't forget to lean into your resources. Well, you might be going, okay, well, wait a minute. You just said, we can't, we don't want to have a crutch, but then you're saying, don't forget to lean into your resources. What is this all, how does this all really come together? Resources in terms of removing barriers and creating those efficiencies, right? That enable your team to do their job that much better, that much more confidently. Laura, I want you to be able to, really shine the light here. You talked about, we're not just talking about one cupcake here. We're talking about the whole bakery and putting that together really sufficiently. I love that analogy, and it just makes me hungry. But I also think it ties really well into, leveraging the resource that you have access to appropriately, right? So you're able to create that scalability. So you're able to create that momentum with pipeline development and that sizzle internally. How is Hagadone? Or even other, from your former life, what's kind of been the bell that's gone off saying, hey, these are resources that can take us to the next level with clients, or even how we're approaching things internally?
Yeah, I mean, I think 3 and 4 here are very closely related, because when I think about, not overwhelming the team and making sure there's accountability, making sure that we don't use partners as a crutch, where's that line? I think internally identifying where you want batons to be passed off and where you want individuals to be involved is incredibly important. If you do not have structured conversations around what a person within the organization's role is and where a partner's role is, then you will absolutely have issues stepping on toes, or people who are taking on way more than they should, right? So when I think about Sean's point to we've overcomplicated this for ourselves historically, and it's really not that crazy. If we are going with a consultative, needs-based conversation around audience and ROI, and that's the end goal, and we know that we have a partner or internal resources that can help to pass a baton when it starts to reach a point where we need a specific solution level acumen or execution strategy, or you name it, then that baton gets passed off. And so I think it's just more making sure you have a conversation around what are our resources, what exists, and then where do we really want to infuse those resources so that everybody understands, because sometimes it's just like everyone's just left to kind of assume that
Exactly.
when resources get used, and that's a poor assumption.
All right. I love it. Yeah. You have that access, but knowing when and how the baton, I think that's a great, really important reminder for everyone. Last things here, and I'll just take this on in terms of the don'ts. This is one of my favorite. Don't forget to track. I feel like this is something that, we should all be doing as sellers and marketers. And I'm sure that we are, and that you're leaning into some sort of CRM or spreadsheet or database or something, but it is so paramount to make sure that you are seeing that visibility and transparency as to how things are progressing, how they're impacting your core, where the opportunity resides. So don't forget to track, lean into those tools, set up KPIs, set up those accountability metrics, right? For the team to really hold themselves accountable to. I think there's another piece to it, the accountability from partner side to the team. That's going to be really incredibly important in terms of successful digital transformation. So last couple minutes here, where did we land, y'all? We talked about some wonderful, awesome things in terms of key reminders that are so incredibly important to remember as things to do, things to make sure are top on your list with digital transformation. So we've got those bullet pointed here: culture, being open-minded, understanding revenue potential. That has been, big, and it should be big, right? This is business. You've got to be seeing and understanding revenue implications. And the don'ts: stop the piecemeal, no Frankenstein. We're not creating monsters here. We don't want to overwhelm the team. We want to be strategic with our why, right? And make sure it's aligning with what we're doing on the core side of our business in print and broadcasting and whatever we're doing. And then, of course, we're tracking everything. We're making sure we're moving these deals across the finish line, optimizing where needed, and leaning into resources, right? When they're available, leaning into resources. So I just want to truly thank Sean and Laura, for being these amazing panelists. Goodness, like this slide, I think totally rings crazy true in terms of what the success that you've seen, right? 53% of local SMBs, this is from Burrell, they want to be working with a local media company. They want to be working with Sean's team. They want to be working with Laura's team. That's who's made the foundation in the marketplace as the leader, right? News, information, content, marketing. So there is huge opportunity out there when it comes to digital. And you guys are just at the, ready to capture all of it. Track, optimize, adjust, and have fun, right? Keep plowing.
Most
Thank
important,
you.
have fun, right?
Have fun. Oh my goodness. Have the most fun.
That was awesome. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. If anybody still listening would like to connect with any of us on LinkedIn LinkedIn, feel free to do so. We're always sharing some great tips and tricks around, not just your digital transformations, but how to connect with your clients, how to make sure you're providing the right things and being true consultants, right? I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I am taking the day off tomorrow. It's my birthday, Elizabeth. I am out.
It's his birthday.
Yay, happy
Have a great
birthday.
weekend.
Bye. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Bye.
guys.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.